Hey everybody, welcome. As you know, it's Saturday, and what does Saturday mean? Well, not much because usually I forget, but it's supposed to mean we're doing the No Fudd Zone. So tonight I am joined by a couple of my regular viewers here, and we're just going to talk about stuff. If you've got something you want us to talk about, let us know. Otherwise, listen to what we want to talk about, and don't bitch unless you ask us something specific. Uh, who said they had a topic for tonight? Was it Welper?
I do have one.
All right, what is it?
It's an interesting science story. I'm not sure how many people I can put to sleep with it.
Well, we'll
There's
see.
been some
Don't doubt yourself, Welper. You can put a lot of people to sleep.
Who's breathing
there's
into
been
the
a
mic?
recent science story uh, where they were investigating lead exposure. Um, we all know that lead, in the gun community, we know that lead has detrimental effects on mental capacity, but apparently, back in our ancestors, overexposure to lead actually led to the advancement that created the modern uh, language center of the brain
Really?
through altering our genome.
Huh.
Um, they investigated a bunch of uh, teeth for lead exposure from a bunch of different fossils, and then went through and actually tested. Um, I don't know exactly what they called it. They make little tiny brains, false brains, basically, out of neurons, and tested those with lead exposure to figure out exactly how it affected them. And those without this gene were drastically affected, while the ones with the genes weren't. So they believe that over time and overexposure, that actually created a new protein in the human genome that led to the advancement of the language center in the brain.
Did they
Or
speculate on how the lead exposure happened? Because we're talking well before we were smelting metals.
Yeah.
right, yeah,
So,
and this
yeah.
was tens of thousands of years
Eating
ago.
rocks.
And yes,
Okay.
the study did look over the fact that lead gets concentrated by things like wildfires and different weather events. So
Mhm.
they believe it was just regular environmental lead exposure.
Who is this study from?
That I can't tell you. I can drop a link here in the chat
Okay.
for the video that I watched that talked about it, and they give you the link to the actual study.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how they're able to determine that it was the exposure to lead. Because if they're building little brains now, we know what exposure to lead does on developing brains.
Yeah.
Right.
That's well documented that if you're young and you're exposed to lead, chances are you're going to end up being dumb or retarded. So I'm wondering how they're inferring that it changed.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd like to interject is we're talking about a species that was before Cro-Magnon. So the species after Cro-Magnon, obviously, lead has had an adverse effect on our brains.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it didn't create a certain aspect of the brain and then became detrimental later. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Right.
In other
Yeah,
words,
it
the
was
later
a negative
species.
pressure.
Yeah. The
It
later
was a
species were
negative
less
genetic.
able to mitigate
yeah.
the effects of lead.
But just for everyone out there, that's the thing. That's the kind of stuff that Welper finds interesting.
Oh yeah.
Just
Uh,
don't suck on lead to become more intelligent.
don't
Please.
eat
No,
lead.
no.
George Powell threw a topic out there. He said, "How evil is it to appeal a decision forcing the government to pay SNAP benefits? There's a special place in hell for them." I want to kind of rephrase that question. Since we do have a lot of people that are Trump supporters in the gun community and Republicans, even in here. Is there anyone out there right now that still thinks there's an argument to be made? I'm going to ask it this way: that the Democrats are responsible for SNAP benefits not being paid, people going hungry. Now, I'm not saying the government shutdown. I think you could probably still make an argument that, they're being just as stubborn about the government as the Republicans. But is there anyone that thinks that there's still an argument to be made about who is responsible for food stamps not going out? when the courts have said the money's there, spend the money. And then the administration, and they started spending the money. As soon as the court made the order, the government agencies in charge of this started spending the money. And the Trump administration panicked, went to the Supreme Court to get an emergency stay. And they did, but they'd already spent some money. Some money already went to the states. So the money's obviously there. And the courts are saying that's what the money's there for. That's what the law says you're supposed to do. But the administration is going to court to stop themselves, to prevent the order to pay the SNAP benefits from going into effect.
Well, this $5 billion in reserve funds has already been earmarked specifically for SNAP. It's not like it could have been used for anything else or should have been used for anything else.
That's true. And since that's true, is there any rational person, do you think, that could make the argument now that it's 50-50 Republicans, Democrats for what people aren't getting their food stamps? Or even that it's the Democrats' fault that people aren't getting their food stamps? It clearly isn't. It's clearly the Trump administration. It's not even Republican politicians. It's the Trump administration that is doing this, that are fighting. So I don't think there's me, Pete, personally, I don't see any logical way you can make an argument that it's the Democrats' fault that people are going hungry. It's 100% the Trump administration's fault, because they have the money. They're by law supposed to spend the money. They have been ordered by the courts multiple times now to spend the money, and they are going out of their way, calling in favors, everything to make sure they don't have to spend the money, because they have, even through their own words, said that is surrendering leverage against the Democrats. So I don't see how anyone could say that both sides are responsible for that.
This whole thing makes me so angry, because we're
now,
talking
and if
about
you haven't
hungry
seen
people.
if you haven't seen it this morning, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah, she froze the order so they don't have to pay the SNAP until she reviews it.
No.
It was only her, because she was the one that was doing that job at that time. Because it
was her district. It was the district she's responsible for. So when they appealed to the Supreme Court, but she did not have to temporarily stop the order either.
Now, and it's probably one of her clerics that did it, because I don't think they usually get involved in these things. But it's just ridiculous that it was even asked, and much less that it was granted.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why would you, if you're someone who's the president of the United States, why would you say, hey, there's people in my country going hungry right now, and we have the money to pay their benefits. In fact, by law, we're supposed to be paying their benefits, but we don't want to, because it gives us political leverage over our opponents.
Well,
one of the things, go ahead.
I was going to say, the other way is you play that card the other way. Hey, you know what? Democrats shut it down, blah, 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 blah. But me, I care about you. So here, I'm going to make sure you get your benefits.
Yeah, see, I don't know why they didn't do that. Why did they not say Democrats shut down the government, but I'm going to make sure people don't go hungry? And then people could be arguing, saying, hey, we already allocated the money. He's not doing anything special. He's just doing what he's supposed to do. But most people would be like, yeah, Trump made sure I got my food stamps.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is Trump thinks all this money is his. It's not our tax dollars. It's not the federal government's money. He thinks it's his money. And why would he pay for other people?
One of the things that's getting conflated here, and it's really a red herring, is they're saying, well, the reason that SNAP is frozen is because we got to make sure that undocumented people aren't getting SNAP. Well, they're a small segment of the SNAP recipients.
Well, they don't actually get SNAP. You can't legally get SNAP as an undocumented person. They would have to be using fraud to get SNAP.
Right. All of these go, oh, well, they're unemployment and Obamacare and SNAP and all. No, if they are getting it, they're doing something else to break the law to get it. Right. It's not legal to give that to them.
Yeah.
And that's not the majority of SNAP beneficiaries. Don't fit into that
98% or something. I remember they did the big welfare. Remember back under Bush, they did the big, we're going to get all the cheats off welfare. And they found out that it was less than like 3 to 6% fraud, period. So there wasn't a whole lot because they were like, it's half the people are cheating the system. And they found out, it's about 3 to 5%, something like that. So they didn't really do anything because they wasn't enough, because it would have cost them more money to catch the people cheating than they are losing to people cheating. It's kind of like the one where they started doing that. Well, we're going to make people take drug tests to get food stamps. And they spent tens of millions of dollars doing the drug testing and didn't stop, but maybe a couple $100,000 in food stamps from going out.
And they did the same thing with unemployment.
Yeah.
You've got a drug test to get unemployment. Oh, wait. Nobody, they don't have enough. If they're not employed, how are they affording drugs?
Yeah. And it's usually when they do stuff like that, it's nothing about actually dealing with fraud because they know the numbers. They know there's not really any substantial fraud. What it is, hey, my buddy Carl, who owns this company, his son has a company that does blood tests. We're going to mandate some federal business for him so he can make a lot of money doing drug tests.
Yep. And it's Oliver B made a good point. 2/3 of active military are receiving food stamps, and this is from 1992.
Yeah.
If you think about what the average military soldier gets paid, they are going to be on food stamps. They are going, and the answer when a congressman gave him was, well, you need to go to the food kitchens then.
Until you make either first lieutenant or staff sergeant, your salary, there is no way you're going to come close to making ends meet on it unless you live on base, eat on base, everything. Because you're not paid a wage to be able to go out and live a life and have a family. And that's another way to make more money is have a family, have kids. That qualifies you for better housing on base, etc. But when you're like an 01, 02, 03, even 04, you're not making shit. I mean, I lived when I was an E4, not 04.
Yeah.
When I was an E4, I was making so little money that I could barely pay my car payment and my insurance and have money left over to go out every now and then, living on base and eating at, the mess hall. So it was a pittance of money. And my car payment at the time was like $90 a month. So.
Now, do you think that plays into the idea where they, and I don't know if they still do this, where you're not allowed to get married without permission until you're E3? I can't remember exactly.
I don't know if it's they say you can't get married. It's that your benefits aren't going to become eligible till you're E3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have enlistees that are married before they even sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Back in my brain, there was something that if you weren't married when you signed up,
I think
you were considered government property, and you did have to get approval to get married.
Wow.
And especially during wartime, they didn't want that. You know what I mean? That was a big distraction.
Plus, it's more expense for the government because then they got to give you bigger quarters and they got to pay you more money so you can feed your kids and they got to pay you more money so you can feed a spouse. That spouse and that child wasn't going to be a government dependent until they married you. So you're getting permission to take on government dependence.
Yeah.
And not just for food and health care. That health care card, that government dependent health care card, that's a big thing. And that's what they're agreeing to let you have when you get married. Let's see here. What are we doing over here? Johnny Mandrick says YouTube sucks. I don't know why he said that, but he does, but I don't know why he said it. George Powell says, I completely forgot I won something. What are the knives? Oh, we already dealt that. And he told me I could keep it and give it away again. That's what he says next. Daniel Mann suggested a Henry Lever action for the giveaway. That might be a nice main prize for the Toy Guns for Tots drawing. Yeah. Homesteading with Soulless Ginger said for the tots and for the fur babies. George Powell, that's the one we already read. I just read that one. He's the one talking about the SNAP benefits. William S. said toy guns. Excuse me. George Powell says they are being stubborn about saving 20 million U.S. citizens from losing health care. that's another thing. It's, look at what each side's fighting before right now. I really think it's hard. That's one of the reasons the Republicans are being really quiet. And the only person really going out and saying much is Mike Johnson, because he's willing to lie, just bold-faced lie. And he'll keep saying, well, their proposal wants us to give benefits to illegal aliens. No, their proposal doesn't. I mean, I've looked through the things they say it said. Most every person I've seen on the news even Fox News went through and said, well, I don't know where he's getting that information from, because it's not in any of the stuff the Democrats have put forward. And it's also federal law that they cannot benefit from Medicaid, Medicare, blah, blah, blah. So unless they would change that law, they couldn't get that anyway. So,
and more importantly, he can't answer that question.
Yeah. So it's just, right now, it's about, and it's not, I don't want to come here and say, well, it's because the Democrats care about people and they want to keep their insurance. Well, no, it's the Democrats have a lot of donors who are from the insurance industry. And right now, the insurance industry is getting a huge paycheck from the government every month, because all that money you're not paying, the government is paying for your insurance. The insurance companies aren't giving you insurance cheap. They're charging the same price, actually a little bit more, and they're just getting most of it paid by the government, which is a guaranteed check. They know that's going to come in every month, whereas you might default on your payments. So they don't want to give that up. So they're telling the Democrats, hey, don't give up our big fucking government check. But as far as big government checks go, I would rather it go to something that actually benefits people, like getting reduced health care so that they don't go bankrupt when they get ill, then I would see it going to ExxonMobil so they can build a new port. So it's the lesser of two evils in my mind. Let's see here. Illegals don't get free health care or SNAP. They do get treated at ERs because they are humans, and we are used to being a caring society. And believe it or not, who do we got to blame for that? Or not blame, but give credit for the fact that hospitals couldn't say, hey, you're not profitable. I know you're bleeding out right now, but we're not treating you because you're not going to pay your bill. That was Ronald Reagan that did that. So people think that a big Democrat giveaway. No, that was Ronald Reagan's legislation that made it to where emergency rooms couldn't turn you away, regardless of your ability to pay. They had to get you stable at least before they could throw you out on the street.
What do you make of the, I guess, late breaking, as far as I could tell? I just started getting the announcements for it. Trump has apparently tweeted about just giving money directly to people rather than going through the ACA, basically subsidizing them without the middleman.
How would you do that?
I'm not exactly sure.
Well, that's the problem, is Trump doesn't know how he would do it either.
Yeah.
Right? That's the same. Yeah. It's just, in his mind, hey, look, I'm going to give you a check. They're going to love me because I'm going to give them money directly.
And what that would end up being is somehow it would end up being, well, we got to do it fairly, so we got to do it for everybody, and we'll do it based on how much taxes they pay or how much they make or blah, blah, blah. And somehow a big chunk of the money will end up going to wealthy people who don't need the money but want it anyway. It's kind of like how Social Security was supposed to be an insurance account. It wasn't supposed to be something you were absolutely 100% entitled to at first. It was supposed to be a payment thing that everyone paid into, and then when people got to be a certain age, if they couldn't afford to live, they got Social Security. Nowadays, it's like even I know rich people getting Social Security, and even though they're bringing in tons of money through like capital gains, etc., it's written off in ways that it doesn't count, so they still get their Social Security. My father-in-law was making more money off his dividends and stuff like that than most people would working, but he was still getting a full Social Security check every month. So these things, I think, need to go back to insurance things we pay into. Kind of like insurance, you should get some of it back. Well, in cases of things like this, when you have insurance for 20 years and you don't break your leg, you don't get your money back. I think things like Social Security, et cetera, should have a little bit of that. It should be, if you're making more money than the median salary, well, then you get a reduced payment every month. You don't get that full payment everybody else gets who has nothing else coming in. Like if you've got just Social Security and that's your income, well, then you get the full benefit. If you're making the median salary, well, then maybe you only get half.
Well, there are limits to how much you can make outside of Social
Hey,
Security that do
yeah.
affect how much you get, how much
But
of your
they're
Social
but they
Security
but
you
they
get.
craft the law in ways that people like my father-in-law could be making $1 million a year, but it doesn't count as income because of
No.
the type of income it is, or where it goes, and what kind of account it sits in, and then they
Right,
still get a full check.
It's going, yeah. I mean, if you're making it off of investments, then they don't care. It's if you're making it off of actually working.
If you're going out and actually working, they'll punish you, but not if you're got like I've got a portfolio that makes me $2 million a year.
Well, one issue I want to discuss is the air traffic controllers and the lack thereof because of the shutdown. It's miraculous that my sister's recent flight was not canceled, because I heard something like 7,000 flights in the U.S. were canceled over the last 48 hours. I would hate to be in an airport right now.
Well, they were, but remember, that was a forced cancellation by the transportation department. That wasn't the airlines or anyone else. Oh, we don't have enough controllers, so we're not going to do these flights. That was Trump administration trying to put pressure on the Democrats to open the government again.
Okay, but you've got thousands of people stranded at the airport.
Oh, nobody in the government cares about that.
Hell, you just had one that belittled. Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the whole transcript, but you've got other Republicans telling her, dude, you went too far. And she's upset that they're calling her out and not defending her.
Mm-hmm. And they don't care. They're flying around on private jets. I mean, look at Kash Patel going everywhere on a private jet for his own personal business.
Not a private jet. That is a government jet.
Yeah. But, it's
why
not
he's in trouble.
open to the public. Yeah.
No, he commandeered a justice or whatever he is, jet to go to his girlfriend's concert.
Yep.
Yeah,
any corporation who has a corporate jet, I can guarantee you the higher up echelon just uses that jet as their own personal.
And that's private business, so I don't care. But
no, I mean, even like public companies, any company that has a private jet, I can guarantee you that jet is for business purposes, and everybody from the CEO to a certain level just takes it whenever they want.
Yeah, I'm sure they're getting tax write-offs for every mile it flies and everything else, but they still just use it for whatever and write it off anyway. And plus, if it's a publicly traded company, well, that's your profits they're using to gallivant around the country.
Yep.
I know.
But Abe Adeli says Republicans and Democrats are two adjoining cheeks of the same ass. They need each other. Money out of politics is the only way. I agree. 100% money needs to be out of politics. I'm a firm believer that politics should be like the priesthood. You join the priesthood, you agree, I ain't never going to get my wick wet. Well, they do, a lot of gay sex, but they're never going to get married, never going to have kids, etc. It's part of the job. I think when you go into government work, you should know, hey, you can be a politician, and I would okay with it being until you hit a mandatory retirement age, and then you'll get retirement your whole life, but you're not allowed to work in private industry. You're not allowed to take money from special interests. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. It's the sacrifice you make to serve your country. I have no problem with that. Some people have problems. That's against capitalism. Well, some people sign themselves into agreements that take them outside of the norms. And I think that's one of the times it should happen. If you want to be a long-time standing senator, you understand that this is what I'm going to make every year. These are the benefits I'm going to get from it. And I'm not allowed to dip my toe in the corporate pool or the big money interest groups or any of that stuff. That's the sacrifice I make.
Oh, well, that's some of the amusement. You watch, or whenever they bring in some new senators or congressmen, and they start bringing up I want to introduce a bill to limit this. And then you hear all this hush. Then they get hushed up because they realize that's how everybody who actually runs the government makes their money.
Yeah.
Is insider trading and everything else.
Yep.
I wonder how
Uh,
much it would change anything based on what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. Can you privatize Social Security?
no.
It
If
would
we
be the
just
worst move ever made.
It'd be like the
think so?
stock market. And then who benefits every time the stock market crashes? Who cashes out first, buys their stocks back, etc. Big industry, and then leaves. Like when Enron went bankrupt, how many of the executives or major stockholders of Enron lost a penny? None of them. It was all the
Yeah.
people who had retirement savings through Enron and had pensions through Enron. They were the ones left holding the bag. That would be what privatized Social Security would look like.
And to be fair, I mean, I understand that, part of the argument is, well, you make people responsible for their own and da. People aren't very responsible, right? People aren't smart enough to do the stock market correctly, right? You hear all these stories about, well, this guy made, and how many other people lost 10 times that?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like gamblers when they love to tell you how much they won at the casino this week, but they don't mention that the last 10 times they lost their shirt.
Yeah. I hit the $10,000 jackpot. I then lost it on top of the other 5, but horse races are much better for that. Yeah. These guys always want to tell you how much, they hit this race, they hit this race. Yeah. They bet every horse in the race to do it. Yeah. But what was I saying? So the problem is most people would not be able to effectively invest that money to have it when they needed it.
Which would mean there would have to be a system set up to help people invest that money, which would mean those people would have access to all the funds. And that means when things started looking bad, most of the money would go in their pockets and everybody else would be left holding the bag.
And that's the thing. Anybody who does decide they're going to help it, those people are going to get conned. There's going to be huge losses. And then at the end of the day, you're going to have a bunch of voters going, yeah, I know I wasted my Social Security and got conned, but I still need it. So guess what they're going to get the government to do?
Well, or, people are just going to be impoverished when they get older. And we've already seen what happens to a society when you allow a major portion of your population to become impoverished at any level. It destroys your fucking country.
Yeah, and when you're more of an agricultural country, you can rely more on family help and the family farm and the thing and generation working and that happens. When you're industrialized and you're a service society like we are, that just doesn't work anymore. You don't have the family structure or the social structure to make that happen.
Yeah, Mikey D just said, remember when Bush wanted to privatize Social Security right before the crash of 2008? It would have, if it was in the markets, would have been fucked. Yeah, the country would have been fucked. The wealthy, we'd see more billionaires right now because the crash of 2008 created more billionaires than you can imagine. It made people, pushed them over the edge from multimillionaire to billionaire because they cashed out. They bought back stocks. They did all these little tricks to make sure they weren't the ones holding the bags. They raided pension funds. They got golden parachutes, etc. And the people left holding the bags were primarily small-time investors, people who have holdings in mutual funds, hedge funds, and people who had pensions, etc. Those are the people that suffered. And that's the way it is every time the market crashes. That's like, they talk about the Great Depression and they talk about, all these stockbrokers and big CEOs were throwing themselves out of buildings. No, they weren't. That didn't happen. That's a lie. CEOs weren't throwing themselves out of buildings and neither were stockbrokers. Those people didn't end up being harmed so bad. It was the general population that was wiped out.
Well, I mean, I think there was a bigger proportion simply because back then the stock market was being run for dividends. Mm-hmm. You as an individual or a family owned a bunch of stock that you could either borrow against, but you were doing your stock based on the dividends it paid, and that was your income, right? So when the market crashed, that failed. If you look at how the market's set up now, it is not about your dividends. Nobody even talks about the dividends. What it is how much did my stock price? I mean, this stock market is all based on borrowing against and rolling it over.
Yep.
Right.
And Tesla. How is Tesla's entire value is based on what it might make someday.
Yep. And it's interesting because they made a big deal about the $1 trillion for Musk. But if you really dig into that, the goals they've got to hit for him to get paid
They're going to have to be doing
pretty steep.
spectacularly well.
Well, the only problem is there's also a clause in there that allows the board to okay his payment, even if the goal isn't met.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Which is why Norway's government fund is getting out of it.
Yeah, and yet they'll still somehow their stocks will still soar, even though their sales are crashing. Big companies are pulling out of them and everything, and yet somehow it still keeps going up. So there's something going on there. It's all public money too, because they cheat. Like it's like with Twitter. He bought Twitter for what, like $40 billion or something. It went down to being worth like $3 billion, but then they're like, oh, miraculously, it's back up to value. So yay, Twitter's successful. What they didn't tell you is no, they just used this illusion thing by combining SpaceX future earnings with Twitter to make it look like it's valuable when it's not. But they still make out like bandits. And if the company ever crashes, it'll be the people holding the stocks that are left holding the bag.
Yep. I mean, if you want a great example of how messed up it is you go back to the GameStop stock stunt from a couple years ago. That was hilarious. I mean, and some people figured it out and made a boatload of money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But, those people who got caught at the end, they bought a worthless stock at an overhyped price because a couple people put out an advertising campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, on one hand, it sounds like a great idea, but when you pick through it and you understand how stupid people are, yeah, it's not.
Well, and it's
not
always
a good idea.
And there's always income sources that people aren't looking at. And it's like with Tesla, one of the reasons they got so mad at the Republicans is because they started saying, hey, no more EV credits and no carbon. They wanted to get rid of carbon credits. Well, that's the only way they actually make any money at Tesla is selling their carbon credits. If you look at their actual earnings and you look at like what they made from selling cars, they barely break even. But what they made selling carbon credits was pretty substantial. It's the only way they're able to pay out on the supposed increases that they are paying out on. It's because it's like a fucking pyramid scheme, like, oh, the car company's doing so well that you're getting these dividends on your stocks and the stock value is going up. But really, the only reason there's any income even coming in is because we're selling these tax credits. It's a government check. So it's smoke and mirrors.
So the cars aren't even the product, really.
Yeah, it's the carbon credits. It's the fact that they don't.
I have been hearing news about these new ways that businesses are interacting with each other, and I can't remember who it was. I know NVIDIA was involved in a big deal recently where they're making chips for another technology product company. And basically no money is changing hands. The product company went to NVIDIA and said, hey, we need a bunch of chips. And NVIDIA is like, okay, well, we're going to need, this many billions of dollars. And they're like, well, we don't really have that, but here's an IOU. And NVIDIA is like, oh, okay, well, here's your chips. So they're not even exchanging money anymore.
That's not even that unheard of. A lot of times companies will go to like say I'm the son-in-law of somebody who's really big in business and I got connections. And I go and say, hey, I've got this idea for a business, but I'm going to need like $2 billion in merchandise to have a startup. And I can't buy that now, but later I'll be worth way more than that. And what I'll do is I'll give you a certain percentage of the stock when we first go public. Stuff like that. They make deals like that all the time. That's how Amazon got started. People bought into the business before there was even really a product. His parents' rich friends, they bought into the business before there was any actual tangible product. They were buying nothing on the hopes that it would someday be big. And that's one advantage that connected people have that you and I don't have. We can't go to a bank or anybody and say, we've got nothing. Give us money so that we can have something later and we'll give you some of it back. Doesn't work with us. They want to know that we've got, if you don't have connections, you got to have money in the bank before they'll loan you money. If you've got connections, that's all that matters because they can always, we'll give you the money. We'll write it off. You're good for it. We'll eventually maybe make some money in the future by taking portion of your business. And it'll also keep these other people happy. It's just such a fucking scam.
Well, and the other way that works, because I would not trust anything NVIDIA or a few of the other ones Intel are doing, I would not trust them because they're trying to keep the AI bubble afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case you brought up, yeah, that's exactly what they did. But in the very deep, they basically NVIDIA owns and runs that company without actually owning it.
Mm-hmm. They're not liable for it or anything or legally connected, but they are
so
still.
they avoid any of these pesky monopoly laws and rules,
Or
particularly
lawsuits
coming
later
out of
when things, if things go, or lawsuits later when everything turns out to be a lie and goes tits up.
Yeah. They're trying to avoid the European Union cracking down on monopolies like the U.S. used to.
Yeah, like we used to and should still do.
And we don't. If Ma Bell was alive and well today, they would have never broken it up.
No, Trump will give you a monopoly if you'll fire the right people.
And give the government 10% of your company and the right to veto any decision you make.
Yep.
So
let's see here. Where are we at? Remember when Bush wanted? Oh, I read that. Why do utility companies need government approval to raise rates, but healthcare providers don't? Get the profiteering out of health insurance and it will fix itself. Well, that's true. We're one of the few countries that sees medical care as big money. Most countries don't see that. That's why they're talking about how, wow, America's always been the leading force in developing medications, etc. Well, that's because we're the people who can make fortunes off of developing a stopgap cure, not really a cure, but a treatment. The more treatments they can make, the more money they can make. But it's also over the decades, it's shifted to where, hey, we make more money off treatments than we do cures. So we're not in the cure business anymore. We're in the long-term treatment business. And because of that, that's one of the main problems we have in healthcare, not just the fact that everyone's being charged out the ass. If you go in with a sprained ankle or a broken ankle, you're going to be bankrupt if you don't have insurance, because it's going to be $200,000-$300,000 by the time you get your foot, your bones set, etc. That's not crazy. I saw someone got a bill for $165,000 for a broken leg.
Yeah, but don't they send in the social workers at that point to mitigate the cost?
Sometimes, but usually what they'll do is end up writing it off on their taxes. If
Yeah.
you don't have insurance, they jack your prices up so that they can write that off later as on their taxes and not pay any money on the millions and billions of dollars of profit they make. Because if they can make it look like every bit of that profit was offset by losses, then it saves them a ton of money. But when really there were no losses really involved.
No.
$80 worth of plaster, was what was lost.
You have to go back to the back in the 80s, Blue Cross and Blue Shield got caught in Ohio where, say, an x-ray cost $100, right? Yeah. They paid $60, you paid $40. Mm-hmm. So you paid your $40, right? Yep. Then they went to the hospital and said, we ain't paying you $100 for that x-ray. We're paying you $60 for it.
Oh,
so
yes.
You paid $40. Instead of them paying $60, they paid them $20.
Yep.
Yeah, and then of course the hospital calls the patient and says, "Hey, you owe us the remainder."
They usually didn't, because at that time, if you weren't connected to Blue Cross Blue Shield in particular in that area, they just said, "We're not using you you're not in our network anymore." Uh-huh. You would go bankrupt. Yeah. So they were in on it. There were kickbacks. Those guys, it's like any of that stuff. You go high enough, everybody's connected, everybody's bought in. You look at all of these boards, and you look at how many you may have, say, a board of a steel company. You'll have someone from their customers on their board. You'll have people from their main suppliers on that. They'll have competitors on that board. They're all connected. They just try, the best they can to keep the illusion that they're not all looking out for themselves. Yeah. Boy, I am cynical tonight.
We're talking about the government. How can people not be?
Yeah.
Where was I? MRE's World's having a sale on MREs for like $44 case. Yeah, MREs are great for stocking up, but they suck.
Yeah, I used to package those. That was a job I had.
Did you guys see that a few weeks ago? That was somebody's answer to the SNAP benefits. Was send them all MREs.
Oh dear God, that's awful. Oh man. Yeah, you
MREs
can't.
absolutely suck. I hate to break people, they absolutely suck. They're the lowest grade of rehydrated mush you could ever have to eat. They are not good. Sea rations were good. They were cans of tuna and actual
Oh yeah.
chocolate and everything else, but MREs are awful. But unfortunately, sea rations, if you jump out of a plane and land on them wrong, they break your ribs. MREs
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah, that as a long-term solution, that's no good. MREs.
Yeah, they're awful. Let's see here where we're at. We got some people who donated over here, but I don't see any questions coming in. Let me name the people who have donated to Toy Guns for Tots in the last hour or so. We did get one thing here. It says, I hurried home, got off work at 2100. By the way, I would have painted the holster black after their customer service screwed you and then told them to fuck off. I still haven't sent the holster back. I might keep it just to have a brown one, but I ain't never fucking buying nothing from them again. And it wasn't, like I said, it isn't the fact that there's anything wrong with the product or anything outrageous happened that they did on their end. They sent the wrong holster. That happens.
Yep.
It was how many hoops I had to fucking jump through just to talk to a real person. And then after I got to a real person and I said, hey, I ordered this. I've been waiting for this amount of time. And now I've waited an extra 5 days just to get this one sent back and get a new one. Can you send me the right one? And then I'll send back the old one, just send an envelope with it. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. We know better than that. We've learned from our past experiences to not do that. So I'm like, well, maybe what you should have learned is to send the right product the first time.
Oh, yeah, to begin with.
That should have been your lesson, not to treat your customers shitty, because when you do make a mistake, the customers don't go out of their way to make it better for you. If I had a business like this and I sent the wrong product out, I would be like, oh, if you want I'll send you the right one right now. And then you can either send that one back. If that's the only holster you got, use it right now and either send it back used or just keep it. When I send you the other one, I've lost my profit on this because I fucked up.
See, but
but
that's where you actually think about your customers. Their idea is, you know what, we messed up, but we'll just make it so hard for you to get the mix up fixed that you'll just eat it and move on. And if they don't have you as a customer anymore, someone else we'll just get somebody else, because how many holsters were you going to buy anyway?
Yeah, and
don't buy that many holsters.
Yeah, and as much as people may complain about Amazon or hate how big it is, they have very efficient returns, in my experience.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I buy from Amazon, is because I know I can return it if it doesn't work or if they send the wrong thing. And that shipping times, I like getting stuff fast.
I use a free shipping label, and it's very efficient.
And even them, when they told me, like, well, I said something about they said, take it to the post office, drop it off, send it back to us. And when we get it back, we'll do the process the return. I'm like, so how long will it take you to process the return? They're like, after we have it, no more than a week. I'm like, so in other words, I waited a week for it to ship to me. Yep. Then I dealt with your fucking AI and you for a week. And now I have to wait till I can get down to the post office, which is an hour drive from me, by the way. So you're costing me an hour's drive worth of gas.
Yeah.
Which is almost the cost of the holster, to send you back the holster that you sent me wrong before I even get a chance to wait again for you to ship me a new one.
Well, and who's paying to ship it back?
They're paying to ship it back, but they ain't paying my gas to drive.
Yeah, that's true.
That's at least 4 gallons of gas.
If you don't do you have is it an actual prepaid label? Because I've seen that scam before, where they send you a return label, but when you go to mail it, they're like, "Oh, well, this isn't, this is like for $1.
Yeah.
It's going to cost 15
credit." Yeah,
I have had that happen before. I've had taken stuff back, and they're like, "Well, this tag is only prepaid for $4.99, and it's $24 to mail it."
Yeah. You know what bugs me is when I can't see where the item is shipping from, because if you order something and it's coming from China, they may put it on a cargo ship and you won't get it for 3 months. Well, if I'd known that, I would have never. Yeah, if I'd have known that, I never would have ordered from that vendor.
I've ordered grips before online. Back in the day, they weren't as good about telling you where it's coming from. Now it's more open about where things are coming from usually. But I have bought grips offline before that I'm like, oh, it's shipped the next day. You buy it that night, next day, you're like, oh, it's shipped. And then you're a week later, you're like, where is it? And it's like, well, it's still shipping. And then a week after that, you'll see that, well, it got to customs. And you're like, customs. And then it'll sit in customs for like a month.
Yeah.
So I'm like, good Lord, I would never order this if I knew I was going to wait 2 months to get it.
Yeah.
Because it's around the ad, ships within 24 hours.
And you remember Wish.com was so popular 5 years ago. I was ordering things during the pandemic and they just wouldn't send it. And they said, no, we didn't send it and you're not getting a refund. I'm like, well, screw this. I'm never ordering from Wish.com again.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, even Amazon got bad with, you hook it up and, 2-day delivery, Amazon Prime, 2-day or next day. And then you'd get wait, it's going to be a week.
We get that a lot up here.
Now,
we get that a lot. Yeah. If I ever see that I'm getting a, next day delivery on a package and I look the next morning and I see it processed at Fairview, Oregon and ships from Fairview, Oregon, I know I'm not getting that day because everything that comes out of Fairview is something they throw in the back of a Toyota Corolla.
Yep.
That some private contractor's driving. And as soon as they see how far away we live, they take that back to Fairview that night saying, I didn't get to this one before my time was up. Because they don't want to drive all the way out here.
My personal favorite is this address doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I had that from both Amazon and UPS. And at one point I have said, really? Go check your records and see how many packages have been delivered here to an address that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Who is the IRS sending the tax bill to? This address doesn't exist.
But so for Amazon, I do everything with a card from them and this and that. So I don't have any issues with if I, it's not coming in 2 days. I don't want it then. And the money's immediate. I don't lose the money that way. It's not a battle to get your money back.
Yeah. I've never had a problem with them getting except for when you're like, if it's a private vendor. Now, the biggest problem I ever had with Amazon is once they shipped it to the wrong address. And the company was like, I was like, after I finally figured out that their address they had on their end was different than the address on the order, I was like, well, that's not me. You shipped it to the wrong place. And they're like, oh, well, we'll get this taken care of. All we need to do is get back the original shipment. And I'm like, I can't give you back the original shipment. You shipped it to the wrong address. And they're like, well, we'll send someone there to pick it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if they don't have it or don't give it to you? Well, then we can't do a refund. I'm like, it was a $500 power bank.
Oh, that's awful.
I want my fucking money back right now. And luckily I contacted Amazon and I guess they contacted the third-party vendor and I got my refund the next day. And I don't know if they ever got their power bank back, but they sent it to someplace in Chicago.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, there's not even any addresses on my list of addresses. Because that's the first thing they do. Did you select the wrong address on your list? There's no list of addresses there's no address on my list that's in Chicago.
They must have had the wrong zip code.
I don't know what they did, but they shipped it to the wrong place entirely. Someone stuck the wrong label on it. I don't know what they did, but they sent it to the wrong place. And then they were like, as soon as we retrieve the first pack, we'll refund your money or return another one. Yeah. Like, no, that's not on me to get your product back. And then they even said, have you thought about trying to get the phone number for that address? And I was
this sounds to me like the classic, look, here's this empty box. It's supposed to have a $500 thing in it that we sent to somewhere else and we're not going to return.
Yeah. It was awful. And it was a reputable company. At least I thought the product I was buying was a reputable company. It turned out the third-party vendor that was actually selling them was not that company. It was someone buying them and reselling them.
Yeah,
but
that's the problem.
Yeah. So,
well, I'll tell you, one of the worst shipping experiences I had was through Dick's Sporting Goods. I'll never order from them again. They pulled something similar. Asked me to try to track down the package that they never delivered. The FedEx driver took a picture of my lawn, not even the door or the porch where I live. And that was their evidence that they had delivered it. They didn't take a picture of the package. They took a picture of a patch of my front lawn. Just after all that, I said, to hell with this. I'm never ordering from Dick's again.
I got one night. I thought I hadn't gotten a delivery. Like the only thing worse than not getting your delivery is them saying you got your delivery, but you don't have it.
Yeah.
So I got that one night on something, and it was not something cheap. It was expensive. It was a laser module for my engraver in here, and it was about
Wow.
$500-$600. And I'm like, you say this is delivered, it's not delivered. And they're like, oh, it was delivered. They says at your driveway, and they sent a picture. I guess there was a picture they could send me from the Amazon, and it was on the order if you look too, how they take a photo when it's at your door. I'm like, well, where the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And it turns out they had just driven up to my neighbor's driveway and threw it in the grass between the end of my driveway and their driveway, which is clear down at the dirt road, nowhere near my house.
Yep.
They just tossed it out, right? Just tossed it out in the grass, in the weeds right there, and took a picture. And if I hadn't been able to track down by like, well, it's beside the road, and you know, it's sitting in a patch of gravel and dirt and weeds, it might be our neighbor's driveway. So I went over and looked, and there it was right there.
Yeah, a drifter could have walked off with it. Yeah.
Well, luckily we don't get any drifters up here.
No.
But if this would have been a bigger, like a neighborhood, you know, people steal stuff off your porch, and all the time they throw our packages in the driveway, at the end of the driveway. And I don't blame them for that, because they'll see Django or Turnip and they get nervous.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I've even started telling them, if you pull up and the dogs are out, I was like, don't worry about getting out of the truck, just drop it out on the ground and just leave it here in the driveway. But please bring it up into my driveway. Don't leave it at the dirt road down at the end of my driveway.
Yeah, we've heard your
Completely
dogs
off topic. Completely off topic, but I watched one of your old videos today. Do you still have the Dumbo watch?
Yes.
100% Disney.
Yeah.
That's
that was because what's his face?
I know Yankee doesn't buy cheap stuff.
Think
this Disney watch was free? It wasn't.
Cost a pretty penny, yeah.
Because I was making fun of, what was his name? That guy who was a gun channel for a while, and he got into a big fight with Ed Brown, and he got thrown out of SHOT Show, and he's some rich guy, and he was like, this watch is Rolex and all that other stuff, and I was like, this watch genuine Disney. Disney store, bitch.
I do love your old videos, Yankee. That was some really classic work you did.
I would love to be able to get back to that stuff, but things are too bad these days. Back then, I wasn't aware of how divided and exclusive the gun community had become, or was becoming.
Was that before the rise of Leviathan?
Yes, it was before the rise of Leviathan, that's for sure. Because, you know, that was back before YouTube created the environment where everything could go wrong. Because originally, like they do with every other type of channel, if you built an audience and you got views and they put ads on your product, they paid you. And people started counting on that. They built businesses around it. And then they said, well, we're not going to pay people with have guns in their videos, because that's, you know, immoral. So we're not going to pay them. We're still going to put ads on their videos and stuff, but we're going to give them shitty ads, give them shitty portions of it, and, you know, to make it to where they aren't even going to want to take up space anymore. But that left an opening for these companies like Leviathan to come in and say, hey, you know how you used to make $20,000 a month and you can't do that anymore? Well, we got a way you can keep doing it. All you got to do is be dishonest and sow fear and promote the gun bubble and make everybody feel like they got to go out and do this now. And the best way to do that, to keep an audience like that, is to make them feel like they're special, that they're better than other people, that they're somehow, it's like Christianity. You know, you might be an unemployed alcoholic, but you're a Christian, so you're better than that guy. You know, it's that kind of thing. And that's what caused the real downgrade of the online gun community was the fact that YouTube and other organizations decided they were going to, well, we'll just start keeping your share of the money because, you know, you're immoral because you show guns.
Well, and that's the funny part, is that's what they used for the gun community, right?
Yep.
When you look at the gaming community, then it was, well, you know, copyright infringement and this and that. I mean, basically they figured out they can just keep all the money.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay you as a content creator. So why are they? Originally it was, you keep the content creators happy, people will keep watching and we'll all make money. Then they went, well, I can make all the money. Why do I give any, you know?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I make 10% less and keep 100% of it than work and try to make twice as much so I can keep the same amount, you know? also they've decided that people don't have attention spans for 15-minute videos from people they follow hardly anymore, unless you're preaching hate and fear and playing to their worst instincts. Well, they don't want to watch a 15-minute educational video or anything just entertaining. So they want that in like 15-second segments. So we're going to go to a short-term form. So we don't need to promote long-time producers who make, video after video after video. As long as we got a billion people with cameras making a billion 15-second videos, we'll have enough content, and we don't got to pay them. So let's start focusing our algorithms on all these little ridiculous 15-second videos that we don't pay.
And I my own personal opinion. So if YouTube's listening, this is an opinion, and allegedly, I don't think those their subscribe numbers are. It makes no sense to me that you have 100,000 people watch this video and only 10,000 are subscribed.
Yeah, that's the way.
Why would you not subscribe? You watch it, you like it, you want to see. It costs you nothing. It doesn't. But if you have all these subscribers, now where's my money? I have all these subscribers. Yeah, where's this?
They got away from that. They don't want you to subscribe. They want you to just sit there and scroll from one 15-second video to the next 15 seconds.
And they don't want the advertisers going to Yankee and saying, well, you've got 1 million subscribers. We want to, cut deals with you.
Why do we need them in the mix?
YouTube was like, we're just going to make the subscribe. You come to us. You come to YouTube.
Well, that happened because remember when they made where you have to now tell us if someone's paying you to put products in your video, because when people were allowed to develop naturally, manufacturers were coming straight to people, to the producers. It happened to me many times. Hey, instead of us paying, $500 to YouTube to put an ad on your video, if we give you $300, would you do it in your video? And we'd be like, most people were like, yeah, sure. So that saved the manufacturer money, cut YouTube out of the loop. That's why they put that whole, this is a paid production thing on there. It wasn't because they want people to know, that people are being honest with you, that they aren't paid to give you their opinions. It wasn't anything about that. It was about them being cut out of the loop.
Well, there was a little bit. I mean, you had that one idiot who was owned a company that was basically gambling.
Mm-hmm.
And he was acting like, oh, I'm being sponsored by them. Look at me win and look at me win. And his subscribers who were younger couldn't figure out that this was fixed.
Well, that's illegal. It's like that whole, what's his name? Dan Tarzarian, or what's his name? The gambler who drives the tank around. And what's his name? I forget his name.
No clue.
But, he's living this high life, and he's famous now because he's a professional gambler who makes millions at the casinos. He never made a dime gambling at the casinos. They sponsored him. They paid him to pretend he was winning. They put him in tournaments, fake tournaments half the time, and they look, he won $1 million in a tournament. So people would be like, I'm going to do what he does. I'm going to take my life savings, go to Las Vegas, and build the same business he's got. And that was all it was. It was fake. He was fake. He's fake. It's like, the people who fall for that are the same people who think Kid Rock is a redneck from, Arkansas or something. Kid Rock was a performing arts school graduate who came from wealthy parents, in an affluent area, and he played a character for a record label.
Yep.
It's like Vanilla Ice. Oh, I was raised on the streets. Really? It says you came from a dance academy in upstate New York. So back when they didn't have the internet, it was easier to have those fake personas.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, we're out of time. I just realized. Anybody got anything they need to cover before we go?
I just want to mention real briefly that Costco is now charging people more to get into the store an hour early. Would you pay double what you're currently paying for your Costco membership to get in 1 hour early?
No.
And I'd have to look that up because the Costco's out here aren't. I mean, they have if you're, there's two or three membership tiers, and if you're at the lowest tier, you start at 10, and like the tier I'm at, the other tiers, it's at 9. But that's just because there's other perks to having that other tier, which I recommend people look into, because you can buy plane tickets And hotel, you can buy a lot of stuff through Costco at a price that makes all of these restaurants embarrassed.
Yeah, and I my membership I think can do that because I have the executive membership.
Yeah.
And I can go in early. I never go in early. There ain't nothing at Costco I need to get there before the rush. The chickens, maybe. I mean, I'm not a big. I don't really get the most out of my Costco benefits. You know, I'm not one of those guys that does that. Some people do. They get the most out of it. They run a business or something, and they go there and buy stuff for their business. I don't do that.
I think because I have a friend, they work at Costco. A couple friends who work at Costco. One of them's got 30 plus years in, so he's set. He got Costco stock at $10 a share, and look at what it is. He's set. But yeah, if you really dig through, go to their page and look at the benefits and the things you can do being a Costco member, there's a lot you're leaving on the table. If you
I got a $1,500 reduction in the price of my car when I bought the Subaru.
Yeah, really. Anybody who's listening who's a Costco, go look, man. Go look.
I didn't even think about it when we were doing the negotiations for the price of the car. I was like, nah, it's going to have to come back down another $1,000 before I'll buy it. And they're like, well, we've done everything we can do. And then they're like, wait, are you a Costco member? And I was like, yeah. And there was a $1,500, discount for Costco executive members.
Yeah.
So that brought it down to where I would buy it.
Yeah, that beats the hell out of a AAA membership where you get like $5 off of a Denny's meal.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the AAA also is going to depend where you live. So here in Washington, the state, most places, the state sets the tow rates. In Washington, it's $400.
Wow.
Washington has some of the highest tow rates I have ever seen anywhere. So yeah, if you have to get towed once, trust me, that AAA membership paid for itself a couple times over.
Yeah, I'm glad I have towing on my insurance because we had to have Caden's car towed a couple of times. And one time I had to pay for it out of pocket because we towed it to a mechanic who then tried to rape him on the prices. And I was like, no, I'm having it towed somewhere else. And and the insurance company's like, well, we won't tow it to two places. You only get one tow per breakdown.
Oh boy.
So I had to pay to tow it to the other. And it was only like 10 miles, but it was a lot of money for towing it like 10 miles.
Yeah. Lord. And considering it's like $100, $110 for like I got like one of the top tier packages. $100 or so, $110 a year for a AAA. That probably would have paid for that tow without any problem.
Yeah, would have, but I don't have AAA. I need to get it. I really keep saying I'm going to get it. I always have the insurance from my one thing I do on my car. My new car comes with its own roadside assistance, so I can use that and then use my insurance if I want. So I have more options. But on his car, we didn't have that. We don't have the one that comes with the car since it's used. So. Now I said next time the car breaks down and I have it towed somewhere and something like that happens, I'm just going to go down to wherever it's at. I'm going to push it a half mile down the road and said, well, we had it fixed. And as soon as we drove off, it broke again. So this is
I'll tell you this
tow per accident.
As far as AAA goes, they do not give you a bargain on the car battery replacement. It cost me $275 to replace my car battery.
Yeah, the same thing with a lot of the car battery replacement things. But Caden was I said, we need a new battery for the truck. I gave it to Caden to take care of it. Next thing I know, he's like, okay, I got our battery and we'll go down and get it. And I'm like, how much was it? He's like, $450.
Holy hell.
I was like, what the fuck did you buy? Well, this is a big engine and it needed this big. I'm like, no, it didn't. I went down and bought an $85 battery from, what do you call it? It's one of the discount membership club things. It's not Costco, but it's
Sam's.
No. They might just be here locally, but what are they called? They're like they got like sporting goods and groceries and what are they called?
No clue, Yankee.
There's one of them right at the bottom of the hill. I don't remember what it's called, but I went down there and spent $85 for a battery, and it works just fine. I'm like, who in the fuck puts a $400-something battery in a 30-year-old truck?
Well, what else did they charge him for? Because that's where a lot of that gets.
Well, probably changing it out and all this other stuff too.
You know,
$450.
I saw someplace up here, little shop got busted because they were trying to charge people $25 battery, disposal fee and a recycle fee, and they just made all this shit up.
Yeah. And they're supposed to give you a credit for the core charge.
Yeah, the core.
Yeah,
You're supposed to get money back when you give them the old battery. It was so pricey. And hell, put a battery in a Prius. No, I'm not talking the electrical system or the battery for the actual hybrid drive. I'm talking just the regular start the car battery.
Yep.
It's these funky looking yellow batteries that are like $600-700. It's just ridiculous.
And that's got to be hybrid, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's another thing. AAA will not give you credit for the core, for the battery they're taking off of you. They're just like, oh, no, that's all. We're doing you a favor by taking your old battery away. I'm like, you're not doing me a favor at the prices you're charging.
When did you get this done?
This was like a month ago or maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
They arrive at my place. And here's the thing. The last time I got my battery changed was 3 years earlier when it was only $150. Well, they showed up here and I was like, why is this battery cost so much? They're like, well, our prices all went up. And I said, and you're not going to give me a credit for the core? They're like, no, we're doing you a favor. I'm like, you're not doing me a favor.
Like, screw that. You're not getting you ain't paying me for the core. You ain't getting the battery.
The core back.
Yeah. Next time I'll just walk up the street and get the battery myself and just wheel it back on a dolly or something and install it myself.
And I'm one of these people with the core charges. I'm kind of an asshole. My kids think about the core charges because they'll be like, well, I'm going to go down and buy the alternator, bring it back. We'll change it, take the other one back, get the core charge back. I'm like, no. We'll take the old one out first.
Yeah.
You take it down with you. And then when you buy it, you don't have to pay the core charge. And they're like, ugh. But I'm like that with all. I'm like, take the old battery with you. You don't know. I don't pay core charges. I don't trust getting them back.
Because the kids have the bank of dad and mom, they don't understand cash flow.
Yeah. Kate the other day said something about like, hey, can we get one of these? It's only $50. That's not expensive. I'm like, who the fuck were you raised by that $50 ain't expensive?
They just got used to you bitching about the $50 at some point.
Yeah, but
like,
dad always pays
expensive.
Yeah.
He'll say something like, he'll show me something about park for his car. He's like, it's cheap. It's only $80. I'm like, $80 is not fucking cheap. $5 is cheap, not 80. George Powell says, you want to keep it for the Han Solo factor. Yeah, I kind of do one now that he said that. I wish I had the belt like for it. Teddy Two Gun says, I hope Phil puts a pox on Urban Carry. I always thought they were a low-tier holster company anyway. I use Detroit Holsters, Works, Viridian Laser Light. I'm going to have to find something different because I'm not buying another holster from them. That's right. Buymart. That's what that company's called. Buymart.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, Buymart. Someone just came up with a Kroshnekev knew what it was.
$85.
Before we go here, I just want to read the names of people who donated through PayPal or through my website for Toy Guns for Tots tonight. It was Welper, Mikey D, Abe DeHille, Ryan Sal Savage, Per Gustafsson. Abe DeHille did it again. What did he say the second time? I looked at his first one, but as a statistician, I predict a severe economic crash in several sectors in the spring, summer of 2026 that will lead to civil unrest. Well, I wish I had read that. That's not very. Daniel Mann, Per Gustafsson, Edward Howerton, Dwayne White, Christian Carlson, and Caden Smith. So thanks to them for supporting Pets and Vets tonight with whatever amount they did. Now we need to do the drawing for the special grips, the extra set of grips here. Let me do the drawing.
And just so everybody know, please donate. I will warn you, be careful. I know I donated the one day and it got a little confusing as to whether I actually took the donation or not. So if you're not sure, wait a few minutes, look for the email or check your PayPal account or however you paid to see if there's a charge.
Or just do it again.
That way you don't get double billed.
Yeah.
Cheap.
They double bill you and then they act
cheap.
They get a hard time.
Which is one thing if they gave me twice the money, but they'll probably only give me one of them.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Let me do the drawing for the grips. And the winner is Stephen Sharp.
All right. Way to go.
So
Nice job, Stephen Sharp.
I hope he actually has a CZ75 or something.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, I'll make him a different set of grips. But thanks everybody for coming today, especially those who participated. Even Welper talked tonight.
Yeah.
I was surprised. We could even hear him and everything. I think his beard might muffle his microphone. That might be it. But thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for participating. Thanks everybody, especially who donated toy guns for tots tonight. You will get double entries, and that one does continue on till midnight tonight. So if you want to go, and also if you buy merchandise between now and midnight, you'll get double entries for that too. If you get an entry through buying merchandise, you'll get 2 tonight. So if there's anything over on the website you want to buy, go do that now. I might do that again on another time just to try to promote some sales. Oh, and I'll save the sales and read them tomorrow. We only had like 1, I think. So I'll save those for tomorrow. Or did we even have any? I don't know if we even sold anything today. Let me check and see. Someone's in my studio. We got 1 today. I'll read it tomorrow. And this person will get, if they bought a Toy Guns for Tot, then get double entries. But like I said, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for everything you do. We appreciate it. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Till then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again. Everybody wave and say goodbye.
Good night.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, Gracie.